So do you want to tell me a little bit about yourselves? Like what do you, or any of you in training, or what are your ideas as far as your own metabolism and building muscle? What is it that you're interested in? Good, yes. So she said she's interested in just keeping healthy in her as she's getting older. I'm not going to say in your old age. So my grandmother is 103 years old, and just this feisty little Italian lady, and she's just meaner than anything, and I think that's what keeps her going. And I learned a lot from her. I think there's a generation of people that they ate a certain way, and it was all very healthy. And then, our generation kind of came about, and my parents' generation came about, and we tended to get a little bit away from that. And I remember my grandmother, she'd make everything from scratch. Desserts were, she'd slice up oranges for dinner. She'd go and she would pick mustard greens in the fields when I was a kid. And she'd come back and she'd fry those up, in a little bit of olive oil or whatever. And then, so I learned, I think, a lot from her in terms of the way that we really should be. We've gotten, I think, as a society, so far away from that. And I remember I learned a little bit of Italian from her. If you can tell, I'm a little bit Italian myself. And she said it was a stutta zit and come si put. She'd always yell at me. And finally, after many years, I finally learned what it means. It means shut up and you stink. It was just not, but I did learn about, the food part, and that I'm indebted to her. I'll talk to you a little bit about my book. I wrote a book. It's called Bite Me, Change Your Life One Bite at a Time. And my grandmother is featured in here. She's, I think, on page 5. I just learned, hi Kayleen, just so much from her. And so there's a little dedication in here to her as well. But really, we're here to talk about metabolism and building muscle mass. And the reason that I include them in the same sentence is I think they're so very closely related. So this is my question. How do you want to design your life, okay? As we age, we can have a picture of ourselves when we're 70, 80, 90, in my grandmother's case, 103, and how do we want to be? Can you guess how old the woman is on the left? Any ideas? 90? Can you guess about the woman on the right? 70. Okay, these women are the same age. Okay? And you can see, look how she's muscular. I mean, she's invested in herself. She's obviously eaten well. There's so much to our health and well-being. This poor woman is on oxygen and very frail and obviously very weak. And we want to avoid that. And just like you said, we want to be able to go through life and have the best quality of our life as we can. And how many of you are into like weight training? I see some really fit people here. Great. And how many of you want to be healthy just to be healthy? Okay, great. It's all good. But we all have the same goal, regardless of what it is. We all have the same goal. And we can design our lives to end up like here or here. Now, granted, there are some things that are genetic that we cannot always foresee, we can't predict, and we can't control. But the one thing we can control is the food that we eat. So we can design our lives to be the way we want it to be. So when I talk about lifestyle changes, it's kind of a newer phrase. Have any of you heard of the term lifestyle change before? Lifestyle changes? So to me, it's the opposite of dieting. Dieting is making very restrictive choices. Lifestyle changes is making one change at a time. So what is it about your life, if you think about your eating habits, what is it that you can change that's not going to make it really difficult for you? So, some diets are set up to be very restrictive, low carbohydrate or whatever, and you can't stay on it, your brain's in a fog, you can't stay on it, so then you're a little bit set up to fail. But if you make one choice, one good choice, that becomes a behavior, that behavior becomes habits, those habits become your lifestyle. So I always tell people, just pick one thing. Don't start an exercise routine and completely change out your diet and, do 5 things at once because it'll be overwhelming. But if you do one thing, pick just one thing, you'll really be fine. There's a direct correlation between the quality of the food you eat and how you look and feel. And it used to be said that like 70-80% was attributed to food. I think it's more like 90%. If you give your body good quality food, and that's why I'm at New Leaf, lots of good quality food here, you can really accomplish quite a bit. There are some things that are attributed to genetics. I think that does play a role, but I think it's a smaller role, maybe 10%, and I think maybe 5 or 10% is fitness. But everything has to work together. So how healthy are your eating habits? Would you say you have good eating habits in general? Yes? Okay. Have any of you had like Diet Cokes or Cokes recently? No? Jim? Yeah? Yeah? What about products that are fatty, like fast foods, anything like that? Yes? Some nods, yeah. When you have kids, it's especially hard because they work on you, right? They want you to do that. So I'm asserting that you can build your metabolism and muscle mass at absolutely any age. I think as we get a little older, we do become a little less conditioned. We can get muscle imbalances, but I think it's absolutely possible, and it's through whole foods that are balanced and unprocessed, and then food quantity, making sure our portion control is correct. And when I mean portion control, it's not eating too much. That's what comes to mind first, is eating too much food. But some people eat too little, and they'll gain weight because of that. I have a client that I just met with this morning. She is new to working with me, and she's about 100 pounds overweight. And we're journaling her foods, and she's only eating about 800 calories a day. That's not enough. You know, a woman, she's actually large boned, could actually eat about 2,000 calories a day, but she is not losing weight. And so our bodies can kind of go into a starvation mode if you're not eating enough of the right foods. So we'll get into that in a little bit, but food quantity could be too much or too little. And then we're also going to talk about some fitness, some resistance training, and working out today, and what some of the most effective ways of those are. I wanted to share with you a case study. This is Ana Castro, and she's one of my clients. And what I think is interesting about this is that she's 56, and she thought that her condition was attributed to her age. And she doesn't look grossly overweight. That's not the issue. But she didn't feel well. She had migraines, headaches frequently. She had hot flashes, so starting well into menopause. And she just didn't feel comfortable. She was maybe about 20 pounds overweight, but that's not a lot, especially in today's day and age. But we had her measured. She was 33% body fat. Okay, healthy body fat for a woman at any age is between 20 and 24%. So she was pretty far off. So this means that 30% of her body was fat and the rest was lean mass, muscle, bone, that kind of thing. But when she came to me, it's really interesting. Women come to me especially, and sometimes they have tears in their eyes. They're really frustrated. They don't know what they've done wrong. So I worked with her, and in 8 weeks, I put her through a challenge. And I said, all right, we're going to clean everything up. We're going to give you all whole foods. You're going to work out. You're going to exercise. And she did something really amazing. She went from over 30% body fat, 33% down to 18% in 6 months, which is actually fairly amazing. Now she weighs 118 pounds. She's very petite, and I say proud hubby because I've given this presentation before, and his name is Steve, and he's incredibly proud of her and supportive, which makes a big difference. So if we look at body fat, this is important because we have body fat percentage and also your muscle here, and I know it's a little bit of an eye chart, but I'm going to explain it because this is so critical to your health and your well-being and how strong you feel. It's not how thin you are. It's not what your scale says. It's not what your body weight is when you step on that scale. It's your composition. So it's your ratio, how much muscle you have to how much body fat you have, okay? A person can be very thin. Before I started training, I was about 31% body fat, and I was a size 6, and I thought I was fine, but I got really sick. I ended up getting early stage cervical cancer, and my best friend, since we were friends since the 11th grade, she had pancreatic cancer. And so we lost her. It's a very slow, low survival rate. But I survived it. So I decided to change my career to help people. And I learned so much from it. And I'm very passionate about it because I think so much of our sickness and disease is very preventable. Not all of it, but I think a lot of it is. And I think what's really important is body fat composition. How much muscle you have to how much fat you have. The way this works is I had her body fat tested. It's called a dunk, so it's a hydrostatic immersion test. And what they do is they put you in a tub of water, and they measure, fat floats and muscle sinks. So it's based on that premise. So you can see what a person's body fat is and what their lean mass is from this test. So she went from 32% to about 18%. It went very low. But what's most important is not just that her weight went down, but that she gained lean mass, okay? So typically what happens is when we diet, when we calorie restrict, say for example, we're going on a diet, we want to lose 10 pounds by, your niece's wedding, right? In that September, we've got that wedding to go to. Well, if you restrict your calories too much, what's going to happen? You're going to lose half muscle and half fat. So your scale weight, you would never know that, but you lose your firmness and you lose your muscle. And what happens when you lose your muscle is your metabolism drops, okay? So this is very unique in that this is normal. If she lost 21 pounds, the normal person would have lost 10 pounds of muscle and 10 pounds of fat. But what Anna did, because she was training and she was eating good quality food, she gained lean mass. Is that all understandable? Okay. So and her fat went down and her lean went up. So this is a little unsightly, but this is a pound of fat. What represents a pound of fat? And this is a pound of muscle. So what do you notice about the two, the difference? It's a lot smaller. Yes, thank you, Kathy. Muscle is about, pound for pound, it's about a third the size of fat, okay? Now this pound of muscle on your frame burns about 35 to 50 calories a day. It's an organ and it moves, okay? And this stores energy, but this only burns about 2 calories a day. So it's like, which would you rather have on your frame? Would you rather have, something like this, right? Or would you rather have something like this? Jiggling. So the answer is obviously the muscle. We want muscle on our frames. So the way it works is that the amount of muscle helps determine your metabolism. And yes, there are other things like slow thyroid and other medical issues that we can take into consideration. But ruling those things out, when you have muscle on your frame, your metabolism is going to increase. So I actually did, in my late 40s, a figure competition because once I was sick and I got well, I thought, what a great challenge just to be able to do it. And I put on, in a short period of time, about 6 pounds of muscle on my frame. All of a sudden, I realized I was starving all the time, and it's because this 6 pounds of muscle, you have to eat 300 more calories a day to sustain the muscle, just to support this on your frame. So if you worked out and you gained 2 pounds of muscle, you would raise your metabolism by 100 calories a day. You'd be able to eat an extra 100 calories of good quality food and not gain weight. Just 1 pound, 1 or 2 pounds. So I know this doesn't seem like much, and a lot of women will say, I don't want to bulk up. Do you get that way? Like, I don't want to bulk up, or like, that's good. I actually like a little bit of shape on women. I think a little bulking is good. But when you add this, some women are concerned that they're going to get bulked up. Socially in our society, men are much more comfortable with that. But it's hard for women to really bulk up. It's harder for women to gain muscle than men. We just don't have the levels of testosterone. So you can see though, really what makes bulk is not muscle but fat. That's what makes bulk. 3,500 extra calories on your body is what this will relate to. Does that all make sense? Yes? Great. When your blood sugar drops, what happens is there isn't any more glucose in your blood for your body to function. It needs that energy. If you stay in this zone here, what happens is, or when your blood sugar is low, your body will go after the muscle. You've probably heard that. That's why that deficit dieting, you'll actually lose half fat, half muscle. Remember Anna, who I was talking about, she lost 10 pounds or 20 pounds. Well, she lost all pure fat. And the reason was she kept her blood sugar regulated. But if your blood sugar falls and you're really hungry and you're getting a headache and you're not feeling very good, your body's actually going to start metabolizing your muscle. And your heart is muscle too. So it goes after your muscle, your organs, whatever it can to get that energy. So to retain your muscle, you really need to feed it. And the only thing that you can feed your muscle is protein, obviously. Carbohydrates don't fuel it. And up here, if you have too many calories, it's stored as fat. And that's why that's important. You never want to be down here. Even if you just eat 100 calories of something healthy, just to avoid your blood sugar from dipping down, that's how you really sustain your muscle.